Okay, we're looking at question 2, which asks, which one of the following most accurately describes the method of reasoning used in the argument? And so what we've got here is we know we've got an argument, we want to find the conclusion, we want to see how the premises operate within the argument, and then we're just basically asked to mimic, and in this sense of mimicking, we're just going to explain what happened in the argument. Rather than find a parallel situation or an argument that acts the same way, we're just going to be asked, hey, explain to us what happened here, okay? So when you read through it, you need to be thinking in your head, is it valid or invalid? We have an indication that the argument is valid because we're not told that it's invalid. And you just need to be thinking to yourself, hey, what is this doing? Like if I was faced with this situation in real life, or if my friend came to me and said this, like what would I think? Like how did he do it, okay? And so we have this, this is the most hardcore library in the universe, okay? Like seriously, if you are a book member, and I mean a book and a member, if you make it to this library as a book, you have a place. That's a big deal. I don't even know if I have a place on the planet. If you're a book, you've got a place, all right? And now we talk about this specific book. This is the greatest book ever. This dude, he wants the book. And you know what? He's looking for the book. He goes to its place. It's not in its place. Oh my God. It's not in its place. All right? And then the argument proceeds to say, well, we know because they have the most meticulous system. They know about where these books are. These books are important. Okay? The book is not checked out. Number one. Which is an indicator we're like, well, why isn't it in its place? And then it's not awaiting to be placed into its place. Okay, so those are kind of like the only two things that could be happening. There's three things that can happen with this book, okay? One, it's in its place. Two, somebody's checked it out and is gallivanting around with the book. Or three, it's awaiting being shelved to be placed. So then the argument concludes, you know what? The book is either stolen, which I think is what happened to it, or it's misplaced, okay? So, is this totally valid? I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be, maybe it's in the bathroom. Somebody took the book to the bathroom and like left it on the shelf, left it on the toilet, or maybe it's just sitting, in a pile of other books that people were reading. Maybe it's at a coffee shop. Well, then it would be misplaced. But are there other possibilities? Maybe that's probably true. But how does this reasoning operate? What's happening? Well, we set up this notion, this fantastical notion that every book has its place, and then we begin to eliminate the places that this book could be, and then we conclude that it must be stolen or misplaced. So let's go to the answer choices. A, an observation about one object is used as a basis for a general conclusion about the status of similar objects. We're not talking about similar objects. We're only talking about that book, so that one falls out. B, a deficiency in a system is isolated by arguing that the system failed to control one of the objects that it was intended to control. Well, I think that this system ultimately failed because a book did get misplaced, okay? The argument doesn't talk about that. I'm pissed about that. I think it's wrong what happened to this book. I would like to know. Maybe we need to put the cover of the book on a milk carton. I have no idea. But bottom line is this argument doesn't talk about the failure of the system. So that falls out. C, a conclusion about a particular object is rebutted. We're not rebutting anything in this, okay? We're just making an observation. We're talking about a systematic way that we conclude that a book is missing, okay? So we don't rebut anything. That falls out. D, a generalization is rejected by showing that it fails to hold in one particular instance. Well, if we would have said, if the stimulus would have said, this is the most secure library ever, no book has ever been lost, then that would be the answer. But it never rejects a generalization at all. It just kind of makes an observation, all right? And then E, the conclusion is supported, the conclusion, stolen or misplaced, by ruling out other possible explanations. Waiting shelving, checked out, and the notion that it's not in its place. These are kind of like three places this book could be. That's exactly what happens, and that's why E is the correct answer to the question.